to the Nutrimedical Report live, and we have an amazing program lined up for you today. We have Dr. Bob Thiel in the first hour. Second hour, we're going to bring on Dr. Bob Dennis from NASA, a PhD engineer, worked on the micropulse. Third hour, Tim Alexander. We've got some major stories, lots of new turns and twists on the life of the Wicked Witch of the West, Hillary Rotten Clinton. And, of course, she's center stage now with Dr. Bob Thiel. Dr. Bob, what are you going to say today?
Well, interestingly, she's been in the news, of course, quite a bit. You were talking about a poll, which we'll get to later. But what I found interesting is there was a new book that's coming out, apparently, that is different than mine. My book talks about various statements that she said and why I believe that unless she repents and changes her policies, she's helping lead the United States toward destruction. Well, there's another book that's going to come out, apparently, that they're concerned about, talking about her financial ties to foreign governments and how much money her and her husband's foundation has taken from various ones. And so a lot of people are concerned that that's going to knock her off. But at this instant, on the Democratic side, they don't seem to be excited about this former Maryland governor who's in the race. So unless they get excited about him, I think they're going to push her pretty hard. And when she was announced, there was one thing that really got me, and I'd like to kind of mention this. Apparently, these are people who must be fans of hers. A place called religiousnews.com. When Hillary announced, they put out something called 5 Faith Facts about Hillary Clinton. And so trying to tell people that she's a woman of faith, and they go through 5 faith facts. So if your listeners don't mind, I'd like to say what those supposedly are. One is supposedly she's influenced by a statement that's popular about the Methodists: do all the good you can, by all means you can, in all ways you can, in all places you can, to all people you can, as long as you can. And I think that's nice. Okay, if she really believes that, I think that would be nice. The second thing they wanted the world to know about her is that she has been known to carry a Bible in her purse, but how often she does it and how much she reads it, they didn't say. They did say that she prays for wisdom, discernment, and courage, and that she said that the people in the Democratic Party are people of faith, and that she believes that she's standing up for the oppressed and the persecuted, therefore that makes her a Christian. And how can I say this? Certainly it's appropriate to stand up for the oppressed and the persecuted, but she doesn't have a reputation of doing that. Not when she was Secretary of State. The amount of persecution on people of actual and professed Christian faith, especially on the professed side, was fairly high while she was Secretary of State, and that didn't seem to be something she was that concerned about. It doesn't mean she never got involved in it, but I would watch reports on other news channels about her and what was going on with people imprisoned for their faith in different countries, and they didn't seem to feel that she was as responsive as she should. Now, your listeners, of course, have a different view of a lot of these things than the mainstream. So I just thought it was strange that part of the mainstream is trying to tout what a Christian she was when she started off. Now, in my book, I know if too many of your listeners have it yet, but in my latest book, I actually list 9 reasons why I question her faith. And Bill, I suppose you probably have more than that, but actually, I've got 8 in the book where I question.
I'm sure that we can add many more, but let's hit the high points.
Okay, well, she's extremely committed to abortion rights, which I believe is in conflict with the Bible, because it's the killing of innocents. It tells you in Deuteronomy 21 and Isaiah.
Thou shalt not make thy children walk through the fire for Moloch or Baal, for I am the Lord thy God. That's
you're
what
not supposed to kill the innocents, and so I believe that. One thing, and we mentioned this last time when I was on the air, when I decided to write this book a long time ago, but when I actually sat down to do it, one thing I didn't realize was how heavily involved she was in the homosexual agenda. I bought her book, Hard Choices, which is a pretty thick book, and I was stunned to see that one of her 4 priorities for the State Department was to push the homosexual agenda in countries that didn't accept it. And I was shocked, and if you go, I'm not going to read this to your listeners. If they read Romans 1 verses chapter 1 verse 18 through 32, what you'll find is that the Bible specifically condemns homosexuality and lesbianism, and also those who promote it or approve it. Right. And so she carries the Bible. Apparently, when she reads that part, she comes to a different conclusion than I do.
Well, we have to know that Satan carries the Bible because he can quote scriptures better than a Southern Baptist pastor. So just quoting scriptures or carrying a Bible, of course, he has to put it in a fireproof case because he's in hell. So Satan himself knows more scriptures than any pastor on earth.
I'm sure he knows them better, but he knows what they say. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's got a massive intellect, but he's totally narcissistically evil.
I would agree with you there. All right. I believe that some of Mrs. Clinton's proposed tax policies show covetousness, which I think, of course, violates Scripture. I think some of her positions sometimes seem to advocate class warfare, which I think the Bible is against. She also, when she was first,
she's a communist.
She proposed a plan that would make.
She's a communist, by the way. Her and Bill went to Russia even before the end of the so-called Cold War, and Bill spent quite a bit of time there, along with Hillary, in Moscow. So they have strong affiliations. So does Obama. In fact, I had a nuclear engineer on, and two nuclear engineers that he interacted with from Russia said that Mr. Barack Obama was going to be our future president. This is back in the early 1990s, long before he was even a junior senator in Illinois. So Zbigniew Brzezinski, who selected him, he was paid. His university, so-called Columbia, and his photoshopped life was created by the globalist maniacs like George Soros. Hillary and Bill Clinton are avowed bisexual satanic communists. How's that?
Well, I don't know if they would. Avowed would suggest they would publicly state that. So
they do in their actions more even than their words. I mean, I don't think Hillary. She's so evil. She doesn't have the capacity to cover it up to even look nice like Bill, who's slimy. But she is the avowed most evil person I've ever met on earth. And people want to disagree with me. Let me tell you, you get in her presence, you'll know that you're at the event horizon of Lilith herself, if you want to call it consort of Satan.
Well, unlike you, I've never actually personally met her, but what was interesting about her, and this was going back when she was First Lady, she had her Hillary Care, her proposed health care plan, and at the time I was concerned about it because, as you know, I'm a natural health practitioner,
right?
And
which is
the law basically was going to say, the way I understood it, was that you had to be in the system. There couldn't be people like myself who are outside the system.
Right.
And I just saw someone yesterday, for example, and I won't mention the health conditions, but people went up to Stanford and all this stuff for their child. And make a long story short, they didn't get satisfaction and answers or anything, and so they came over here, and I should be able to help them with these problems. But Mrs. Clinton's proposal would have either made what I do a crime, or they would have looked at it a different way, not the way for people to have rights and freedoms. And I also felt that she was putting a particularly heavy regulatory burden on Americans, and I don't think she seems to realize that that's a big deal. And I think that's
well, as Satan
the lawyers that Jesus talked about. You put heavy burdens on everybody else, but you don't take care of it yourself.
Right. Well, the Satan, remember, now does want to bring order out of chaos, but it's his version of order. And so does Hillary. I saw the SNL skit, and it said, it had someone making fun of the 10,000 things she's going to do. She was on her little iPad or whatever when she becomes president. But maybe I won't run, she says in the skit. The fact is Hillary Clinton is a ultra satanically energized control freak. And if you think things are bad under Obama, let me tell you, she has 10 times the intellect and 1,000 times more evil. We're really, really going to be in trouble if she gets in.
The direction she's promoting is dangerous.
It's unbelievable. You'll see America break up under her. You'll see revolution.
We'll see disaster.
On the average, Americans...
So I looked at the book. You did an amazing research work here, by the way. It's a pleasure to have you on every couple of weeks. And sometimes people say, Dr. Deagle, you talk 98% of the time with some guests. That's because I'm the teacher out there, and you, listening, are the pupil. But when I get somebody like Dr. Bob Thiel, I am a now pupil, and sometimes I'll pop in with some questions here and there because you have a remarkable intellect. You're putting all the facts down, both the geopolitical and the biblical, and you write these books so people can read it and understand. So when you see me not interrupting someone, it's because they have something to say, and when I do interrupt, it's because I have something to say that's important, like what right now. So Dr. Bob, let's go through all the prophecies that Hillary would fulfill if she, quote, is the Antichrist.
Well, she's not the actual Antichrist, okay?
Well, she's coming, let's put it this way, she's a forerunner, let's put it that way, at the very least. Obama is
How about an enabler?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not going to put a label on her as the Antichrist, but I'll just put it this way. We have the final Pope, and I consider the United States as the lead nation that if America can't be turned to become evil, which is being turned because it has this duality of the daughter of Babylon and the daughter of Zion, and we're not talking about Zionism, or daughter of God's kingdom, which is why 90% of evangelism in the last century has been done by Americans around the world. If it wasn't for America, any nation has a disaster. They're always looking for Americans to come and save their butt. And if it wasn't for the righteousness of a righteous America, which, by the way, ended with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, since then we've not had presidents. We've had board members of a global board of satanically energized maniacs, right from Lyndon Baines Johnson's onward. So the latest incarnation, Obama, doesn't have any qualifications to run anything, is a foreign student that was propped up here by Zbigniew Brzezinski and the globalists like George Soros, who's a criminal, can't even go back to Britain. So we have a situation now where if Hillary gets in, America is finished. It's like turkey dinner. We will be done. If America, and by the way, all you Americans out there, 78% say you're Christian. If you vote for Hillary, grab a shovel because you're going to hell. Because let me tell you, if you vote for this woman, you can guarantee that a part of the destruction of not only your soul, but the souls of millions of people around the world, and the destruction of our nation, will be, that blood will be on your hands for putting this woman in power.
Well, you mentioned having me bring up some prophecies, and I alluded to one before. That was the one in Romans 1:18 through 32 that warns about promoting the homosexual agenda and sexual immorality and that kind of thing. And it said not only those who participate, those are deserving of death, but those who approve them. Now, although I'm not, I'm no longer a Roman Catholic. There was a Roman Catholic prophecy that kind of warns about the same thing that's in Romans that your people might find interesting. Let me just read this one. And this is from a Catholic source. So the sins of impurity have become ever more widespread, and immorality has spread like a sea, which has submerged all things. Homosexuality, a sin of impurity, which is against nature, has been justified. Recourse to the means of preventing life have been commonplace, while abortions and killing of innocent children have spread, and all are performed in areas of your homeland. Until the purifying hour of great chastisement, America will know poverty and defeat. See, this is where I believe that while there's a theoretical potential for the country to repent, the probability, I think, is remote. I think we've seen a shift. The so-called silent majority that Mr. Nixon mentioned, which were people who had more of a biblical understanding, if you will, that's become more of a minority. You can pay attention to the media and see the direction. They're convinced that, like the marijuana agenda, they think that, okay, that's all going to go because the government wants taxes, and they try to sound like that's okay. Those things aren't okay. And it's not okay for people to be killing unborn babies. It's not okay to redefine marriage and all those kind of things. But these things are happening. And as one born in this country and one who served in the military, I had gone in my teenage days. I was patriotic, and I believed things like the Constitution. You say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, we started to talk about this the last time I was on, and just take a moment on here. I wrote a book. Well, my current book is called Hillary Clinton, Prophecy and the Destruction of the United States. Well, I wrote a similar but different book called Barack Obama, Prophecy and the Destruction of the United States. And I had a professional press release person who owed me a favor, so he wrote me a press release for my Barack Obama book a couple of years ago. Okay, no big deal. I put it to a press release place that I've used before, and they published it. No problem. I took the same press release, changed a couple of words, mostly inserted the word Hillary Clinton where I had the words Barack Obama. Okay, that's mainly all I did with it.
Right.
Now they have changed. Now this, understand for your listeners, this is a place that publishes press releases. Okay, so you just send it to them and they just put it up.
Right.
And they say, says, per our legal guidelines. Okay, now forget the Constitution. This is their legal guidelines, supposedly. Now these are the same people who published what I said before. You cannot talk about how or suggest that Hillary Clinton is the Antichrist or a sign of the apocalypse. Now, first of all, I didn't say she was.
You got to be kidding. They actually said that to you?
I have it in writing. I'm reading it to you right now.
Oh, my God.
And talk about how or suggest that she is. And I said she wasn't. And by the way, let me tell you, in one of my revisions, so the revision I said, my book explains why a congressman who says Hillary Clinton is the Antichrist is wrong. Okay?
Right.
They wouldn't let me put that in there because they don't want any direct or indirect connection to that, the word Antichrist to her.
Yeah, even if you say, well, she's really bad, but she's not the Antichrist. Yeah, in other words, they don't want even the word in there.
I don't think she was.
Wow.
And then I can't say she's a sign of anything to do with the apocalypse. Now, and in the book, by the way, just for your listeners, I have a list of 20 reasons why Hillary Clinton's apocalyptic, and I have scriptures and things like that, so people can find out. I can't say that. Now, get this: they also don't publish releases that might incite fear or panic. Now, my book says to believe the Bible or else. So they won't publish releases that might incite fear or panic, which includes those that predict the end of the world or mass destruction of a country. Okay, well, I wrote a book about 2012, as many of your listeners know. I wrote it back in 2009. Now, unlike a lot of 2012 books, mine was right. I said the world was not going to end in 2012. You and I talked about it on the air. I was correct.
We both agreed, too. We both agreed it was a pile of garbage.
Right.
And you were intellectually had analyzed it and proven it, yeah.
But back then, they published all kinds of books and press releases about these people who said the world was going to end. And they're telling me I can't even hint that it's going to end. So that was bizarre. Then they thanked me because then I had to make some corrections. And then they don't like that. And they say, okay, because I said, why Hillary Clinton is not the final Antichrist. They said, no, you can't do that. Okay, so I put it verbatim that time. No, you can't do that. You can't say about apocalyptic. So they didn't like that. So then, refrain from including negative criticisms of Hillary Clinton in the release. Now, there are books coming out that are very negative toward her. Mine's trying to explain what she teaches versus the Bible.
My. You know that if C.S. Lewis and the Screwtape Letters were here, there would be an interesting dialogue. And welcome back, and we're ready to roll with Dr. Bob Thiel.
Yeah, so I was going through some things that are not allowed anymore, and it's interesting. Let me read you some other things. Please refrain from including negative criticisms of Hillary Clinton in the release, including but not limited to various things. Additionally, please attribute these prophecies to the author or his book. Well, I said it. The press release is all about the book. Let's see. If it says opinions or editorials not attributed to a source are flags that it might be an advertisement or opinion column as a news release. It's like, come on, I'm writing about the book. And so they wanted me to change it again. Then there's another one that I'm trying to find here that they said that this looks like this could be vengeful. They didn't like this either, even though I've never met her. And here's another statement from them. And I'm trying to bring this stuff out so people see the censorship that comes up. It says, here's what they wrote. Despite the fact you provide the book does not incite fear about the imminent end of the earth, but explains prophetic writings that point to coming change, your claims are still too strong. Okay, the fact that I say that the Bible has prophecies that without repentance the United States is doomed, and I didn't actually put that in the press release, by the way. That last thing I just said, our claims are too strong. And it was just astounding to me that, and this is a place I've used in the past. And so between the radio promoting sources turning me down.
What can you actually say? I mean, this sounds like, obviously the PR news people, or the news people are involved with this, public relations news people are basically saying to you, don't say anything negative of Hillary. You're just writing a little storybook that's not offensive and not scary. It's a book that you can read that'll kind of distract you for a period of time. But don't worry, we don't want to upset you or Hillary. You might say something truthful about the nature of how evil our nation is. Just make sure that no one's offended, including the people that are doing the destruction of our nation, by your book. I mean, come on. Is this America?
Well, what's interesting, it's certainly not the United States the way I understood it.
No.
We have freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion, all of which I think are affected by this. Now, on the one hand,
and all are, by the way, gone.
They have the commercial right to do or not do what they want. But from my perspective, let's give me just a moment on this part, and that's like, let's make two assumptions. Either they believe in the Bible or they don't. If they don't believe in the Bible, then why do they care about words like apocalypse or antichrist? I mean, what difference does it make to them? And if they do, they've got to recognize, that the Bible uses those terms, and therefore they must be in there for a purpose.
I got a third option for you, Dr. Bob. They don't care about themselves whether they do or don't believe, because you got the logic very accurate. They care what other people who might partially believe the Bible, and when they read your book, they realize America is justifiably under judgment like ancient Israel, and we're justifiably going to get destroyed. And if we had someone like Hillary Clinton come in, or another Yahoo president like George Bush Jr., America will fall apart like that Russian geopolitical analyst published about 4 years ago. And this is before they came up with the first Hunger Games, that America will, in the next 20 years, decay into a series of sub-states because of the very incompetent leadership we've had in our federal government. Our federal government, for a number of administrations, both Republican and Democrat, have destroyed this country.
Well, the Bible has warnings that those who lead you cause you to err or to make mistakes.
But I'd look at it the other way around. I see Obama as the pimple on the abscess of the geopolitical system that's a result of the Laodicean church, because 78% of people in America claim to be Christians. A number of Christians, and I remember confronting some of them in my pro-life talks as I travel around the country, U.S. and Canada, talking about pro-life issues for decades. And a number of them claim to be Christians, and even, quote, under some circumstances claim to be pro-life, but really their rules were pretty slack. And same with eugenics. So anyone who thinks that they can vote for either someone like Hillary Clinton or a Republican candidate that has no grounding as a pro-life, constitutional, Christian-based leader has no business being supported by a Christian. And if a Christian supports them, they share in the blood that's going to be shed both inside America and outside, because America will decay to revolution if we have any more presidents like Obama. And now the next candidate they're pushing, CNN, I call it the Cartoon News Network. These people basically, with $2.5 billion of money of it from foreign powers, that are in this foundation for Hillary and Bill Clinton, that this book that's going to come out is completely going to expose her. Also, the latest on what happened in Benghazi, which is a transshipment point for weapons supplies. And when Stevens tried to get back MANPADS, which are ground-air missile systems, which they gave to the al-Nusra al-Qaeda, which we armed these maniacs, they tried to get them back to ship them from Libya over to get rid of the Assad regime. And that's why the Libyan rebels decided to come in and kill Stevens. And we didn't want people to know it was a transshipment point for military weapons going to al-Nusra al-Qaeda in Syria. And we used Turkey and transshipment points in the Arab Emirates to make certain those weapons got through to the extreme elements of Islam. We continue to drop air supplies to ISIL and ISIS, including satellite phones and military weapons and hardware, to this day. And we think that we're not going to have judgment. I think America is on the edge of catastrophe. And I see Hillary, if she gets elected by this remorseless and indignant and stiff-necked population in America that don't believe in a constitutional republic or the rights of the unborn and the elderly with Obamacare, that America deserves destruction and will get the full force of it.
Well, when I read the scriptures, it's coming, and that's why I say in the book, I go through scriptures that point to it, and I also point to her policies. You mentioned Benghazi. I talk about that. I also talk about email gate, travel gate, Whitewater.
Right. It goes on and on. And Foster, her daughter Chelsea Clinton, is to say her daughter Chelsea Clinton had a grandchild, and Hillary Clinton had a grandchild, but Bill Clinton didn't because it was Vince Foster's child. People know that. Okay.
That particular information is not in my book.
Yeah, I have that information from other sources. People need to know just how vile this woman is. She is a bisexual, satanic pedophile, and she had a strange relationship with this daughter of the people that run the actual what do they call that organization in Saudi Arabia? That's the Wahhabists.
The Wahhabists.
The Wahhabists, basically a Wahhabist organization in Saudi Arabia. The daughter of the woman who's the female head of it in Saudi Arabia was her consort and was a member of her staff for years. And she was married to this Jewish guy by the name of Wiener, and he displayed his body parts on his iPhones all over the place and Facebook, and got exposed, I guess, in several ways, fairly obscenely, and because of the strange things that were going on sexually, including the strange activity between Hillary Clinton and this person. So Hillary is a full-force bisexual lesbian, and she is a Satanist, and people need to grasp that. They need to understand just how evil she is, and she's not looking out for America. She's looking out for her version of what she wants to turn America into, and believe me, if you out there think that you want to participate in this mess, I am praying for judgment on those who won't repent, because it's going to come real quick. 2016 is going to hit us real fast, and if Hillary gets in and we don't elect Rand Paul, who's the only candidate that I can support, we are absolutely finished. There will be no America.
I'll pray for repentance.
Welcome back, and Dr. Bob, you've got lots more to say about your book, and you can get the book at your website, which is
HillaryClintonProphecy.com. It's also at cogwriter.com, and if you just go to Amazon and type in Hillary Clinton Prophecy, I come up first. The book comes up first, and it's available in both print and in Kindle versions. So if people want to have it, they can have it in just a few minutes. Now, what's interesting, and we may see this as it goes on, if Hillary Clinton makes it through the primary process, and the fact that she actually announced, despite email gate and the only other skeleton she's got in her closet, there's a good chance she will get past that stage. We're probably going to hear more and more leaning towards getting a woman to be president. We've never had a woman. The media would like to see a woman. Now, when she was running before against Barack Obama, she didn't want to make a big deal about the female side. But in hindsight, her aides told her, look, President Obama partially got in because people thought it was time to have a black president. And so right now, my understanding of her campaign is that they're saying, look, Americans are fair people. There's never been a woman. You've got the biggest chance of any woman to be in, therefore you should be in there. But beyond that, there are some predictions about women coming in, and a lot of them that you're going to hear in the media. If you hear them in the media, most of them are going to be positive. Like, for example, the Dalai Lama said in Vancouver at a peace summit that the world is going to be saved by the Western woman. And people are going to say, maybe the reason the United States has all these problems with wars, we got wars all over the place, is because we have men as presidents. Therefore, if we have women as presidents, we won't have these problems. I don't believe that at all, but that's one of the types of thing. Now, interestingly, there's a Pentecostal minister. His name was William Branham, and I'd like to read something that he claims God told him. I'm not sure God told him this, but it's interesting. He said, quote, "And I said, remember in that day before the end time comes, that a woman, now you all keep this written down, there'll be a great powerful woman raise up, either be president or dictator, or some great powerful woman in this United States. And she'll sink under the influence of women." She meaning the United States, will sink under the influence of women. Therefore, you remember, that says the Lord. And so her influence so far has not been particularly positive, other than the fact I think she's a hard worker. I want to say that I think she works hard, definitely harder than her husband seemed to work. And again, this is my public perception, and I could be mistaken.
She works for evil, yeah.
Well, but she does work. And here's something else.
Well, Go ahead.
I was going to say that there's another
one of the things that
I've got in the book that said there's a global need for women to lead, and these women born in the 1940s and 50s are the first generation of women under this long patriarchal part of human history. They've established self-generated economic autonomy and power. This new autonomy was supported by the women's movement to make room for women in politics. And so this particular author, who's a psychotherapist, is basically claiming that women born in the 1940s and 50s are the generation to lead and change everything around. Well, as it turns out, Hillary Clinton was born in 1947. So this seems to be applicable. Now, I'm not going to read this one. Your listeners, if you want, this is in the book, but there are some Native American prophecies that suggest something that you said at the beginning of this hour, which is that a woman will make a deal with the Antichrist. They don't use that exact term, but that's basically what it means. And I go through all this stuff about from the Hopi Indians and some others. So there are some that way, and I mentioned this on the air last time I was here, but this time I didn't mention. That's a biblical prophecy. There's a biblical prophecy in Isaiah warning about women ruling over us. Now, it's not, by the way, if you look through scriptures, there was the prophetess Deborah who ruled over Israel for a while and whatever, and it's not that there was never any, there couldn't be any good coming from women rulers. I don't want to say that, but the implication of the scripture is there weren't any men who were good enough to get in, let's say, or couldn't win. And some women who rule are probably not the ones that you want. And when you read what Mrs. Clinton has stood for in terms of, let's say, abortion rights, she's a big defender of Roe versus Wade. She thinks that's a great thing. Of course,
but there's lots of women that would make good presidents, but Hillary Clinton is, to put it in real simple terms, when you have a person of this level of evil and they're female, because a woman by their very nature is and this is something I want to explain to men out there that don't understand women. Women by their nature are control freaks. All women, whether they're passive or not. And they use their wiles, their feminine wiles, or their intellect, and she has a very superior intellect, Hillary Clinton. But the woman is vilely evil, and the reason is not only her upbringing, but the things that they've done to her as a child, exposing her to sex magic ritual and human sacrifice, because her family were wizards, and using satanic rituals to shatter her psyche and to create literally a fractured psyche through Reiki and mind control so that she could be avatared by transdimensional demonic entities. Now, people, whether they want to believe this or not, I, as a doctor, have seen people firsthand who have been possessed. This is not a religious statement, it's a medical statement. And this woman is possessed. She will, with her intellect and the amount of evil she has in the directions and people that are around her. Can you imagine how, before she even announces she has $2.5 billion in her accounts? So I can guarantee you that if she becomes president, as it says in this funny skit, the 10,000 things that she's going to do for the first day she's president, she will change this country in a way where anybody in America, if they go to sleep at night and wake up the next morning, they will not recognize it. They will not recognize America.
Well, in your lifetime and mine, what I see now is certainly not particularly recognized.
It'll be much worse than that. I'm going to say this prophetically. She may not be the Antichrist, but let's put it this way. She's going to foment the final deal. Because without a powerful America that's willing to succumb to evil of the level that this woman is capable of, we cannot have a new world order, a new financial order where a biometric ID, which, by the way, isn't going to come from Jakarta, Indonesia, or Russia, or China, or anywhere else. It's coming from America. I visited there. It's at Schriever Air Force Base, the primary node. People need to understand what's really going on here in America. They are disabling our military by pushing this homosexual agenda on the military. A lot of Christians are leaving, and as you said, many of them back in the 70s, it was very pro-Christian. We were praying because we're going into fight battle and we're going to die. Some of us are get disabled. But now it's not. And any Christian who's in the military now is leaving in droves because they can't stand it. They're constantly persecuted for even thinking or praying before they go into battle or do combat, or even just could be injured even just training. And what I see happening with Hillary is she will be the final nail in the 9-inch nail in the coffin of America. And you out there listening, if you or your friends think it's okay to vote because she's a woman, this is foolishness. There's lots of good women that were candidates, including in the Republican Party, that are Christians, that actually have a backbone, have a law degree, and actually are not unethical like her, that could be a good leader. But the reason why, and this is the reason why I heard it from a Jewish woman many years ago, why men have to lead, because men don't reproduce and are not the glue that holds the family together, including society. Men have to lead. By their very nature, they have to be leaders, or you don't integrate men into society. If you have society run only by women, even powerful women who can't act as CEOs and inspire men, you don't have a society. You have basically a clique that will try to do totalitarian control, which is what Hillary Clinton will do after Obama. We need a leader like Rand Paul, who's going to stand on the Constitution like his father Ron Paul, who's going to be pro-life and get rid of Obamacare. He's a member of the AAPS, which I belonged to for 20-some years, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, which Ron Paul has been along with as well for 20-plus years. He has a brain in his head, and he realizes that whether it's a real hell, Israel, which is out of control, needs to be annexed or controlled by us. But they also, if you lived in that area of the world and you're constantly surrounded by Muslim nations ready to kill you, you would be not as aggressive as Israel. If I was the president of Israel, I'd be 1,000 times more aggressive to extreme Islam, and I would not be supporting ISIL, which Israel does with America, and training the Mossad, training the Hamas in Palestine to continue the dialectic of evil. So heed these words and get this book. Again, how do you get it, Dr. Bob, is to go to Amazon.
Right,
Hillary Clinton.
To Amazon, just type in Hillary Clinton Prophecy. It comes up first.
Yeah.
Go to HillaryClintonProphecy.com, which is our website. You get it from Kindle or from the hard copy.
Yeah, COG Writer, C-O-G Writer.
You want to know, right? Or
yeah, COGWriter.com. Yeah, COGWriter.com. Pray for the repentance of America, people. We're up against it now.